All right, let's get into some predictions here. We're going to go through the entire NFC conference today, and we'll be starting with the NFC West. We have the Super Bowl losers in the San Francisco 49ers. Obviously, they have a monster defense. They upgraded a lot of positions through the draft and with some trades. Then we have the Arizona Cardinals, who had a very solid draft, and possibly we see a sophomore sensation in Kyler Murray. Then we have a great quarterback coach combo in Pete Carroll and Russell Wilson in Seattle. And then we also have the Rams, who pretty much lost everybody on their roster through free agency. So my question is, who is coming out on top in this division?
I think it's the 49ers. Geoffrey might disagree with me. I don't care. Because at the end of the day, the 49ers are the reigning NFC champions, and they basically bring back their roster. I mean, they have some losses like Emmanuel Sanders, DeForest Buckner, but then they got some good quality pieces in the draft, like, for example, Javon Kinlaw. They added some pieces in the free agency. And also, Jimmy Garoppolo and that rushing attack is still coming back. They lost Joe Staley, but then they get Trent Williams, who's one of the great offensive linemen who is available in free agency. And I just look at the rest of the NFC West. The Cardinals, they're definitely up and coming, but I don't see them, immediately taking over the NFC West, right? The 49ers are probably one of those top 4 teams in the NFL right now. They have an elite defense. Their offense is good enough. Their rushing attack is probably top 3 in the league. The Seahawks, Russell Wilson and Pete Carroll, you can never underestimate Russell Wilson. But, I just don't see them making any quality moves during the draft. Their draft was particularly really weak. They had some questionable picks, like passing on Patrick Queen. And then, the Rams, I think we should never count out the Rams. Everyone just was quick to forget Sean McVay. He had one good year, and then they went 9-7, right? It's not like they went 7-9, 6-10. They went 9-7 last year, which is still respectable, even with injuries. They lost a lot of people, but they added Cam Akers, who's one of the great running backs from Florida State. I trust Sean McVay's offensive genius, but I still have the 49ers at 1.
I definitely disagree. I have the Seahawks number 1 just because of Russell Wilson. He always manages to carry that team. And then you never discount Pete Carroll either. He always manages to have a good defense. The team is always ready. And the Seahawks are always a good team. And we always underrate them. And they usually win the division. And even if you look at last year, I know the 49ers won the division. But it was because of the last play of the last game of the season, where the Seahawks just choked. They were at the 1-yard line, and they messed up. There was a 5-yard penalty, which screwed them over. But if that didn't happen, they would have won that division. They would have been the second seed. Yeah, the second seed. And the 49ers wouldn't have even been in the playoffs. And as for the Cardinals,
that's false. They would have been in the
playoffs. They would have been in the playoffs. My bad. They would have been a 5th seed in the playoffs. As for the Cardinals, Kyle Murray, he's a sophomore now, and he's going to have a much better season. If you look at last season, and if you compare Kyle Murray's season to Jimmy Garoppolo's season, Kyle Murray had more yards. He had maybe 4 less touchdowns than Jimmy Garoppolo, and that's with a much worse team. And as a rookie,
they're more a pass-happy team. You're talking about Kyle Shanahan, who designed a run-first offense, versus Cliff Kingsbury, who's known for his air raid attacks at Texas Tech.
The 49ers, they started rushing the ball more towards the end of the season. They did rush the ball, but they started doing it heavily near the end of the season. And again, the Cardinals, they weren't a good team last year. The offensive line is bad. The wide receiver
weapon. What makes you think that they're going to be better than 49ers this year?
No, I don't think they're going to be better than the 49ers. I think the Cardinals are 8-8 team. I feel like the Cardinals might be able to beat the 49ers maybe once. Definitely not both games, but maybe once. They're going to be a competitive team in the NFL. And the Rams, again, the Rams weren't a bad team last year. People are already discarding the Rams. But they will be a good team. They're probably not going to make the playoffs, but I see them as like a 7-9 team, maybe an 8-8 team in the NFL.
Yeah, I wouldn't be so quick to, just crown the 49ers as the king of the NFC West. I mean, if you look at their games against even the Cardinals, like both of those games are close games that were decided like basically on the last play of the game. And about the Seahawks beat the 49ers in San Francisco, and they're 1 yard away from winning the division. So I definitely think that the 49ers or the Seahawks is going to be a toss-up whether which one's going to win the division. As for the Rams and the Cardinals, I mean, even the Cardinals, like they beat the Seahawks in Seattle. Like they had close games against everybody in the division. I don't think you can discount them so quickly. And especially with Cliff Kingsbury importing the air raid offense into the NFL, like that's the first time I've ever seen it. So I think of a second season with Cliff Kingsbury and Kyler Murray, they're definitely going to see some improvement, especially with some offensive line help and drafting Isaiah Simmons, this freak athlete. He's going to definitely help the defense. As for the Rams, to be honest, I see them as like maybe like 2 years away from a complete rebuild. I mean, they're in a cap hell right now. They've let go of like Brandon Cooks, Todd Gurley. Jared Goff saw some regression after his offensive coordinator left last year, went to the Bengals to be their head coach. But I definitely see either the 49ers or the Seahawks vying for first place in the division. I think they're both playoff teams. But I think the Cardinals actually are kind of underrated as a team, and I think the Rams are just a couple steps away from just going into full dumpster fire, to be honest.
So how long are we going to keep saying the Seahawks were just 1 yard away from winning the NFC West? Someone tell me why this sounds familiar. The Seahawks in the 1 yard line. Like, Pete Carroll and Russell Wilson keep making the same mistakes. So you're saying trust Pete Carroll and Russell Wilson again, but they made a 1 yard line mistake. And if you think about it, that happened in the Super Bowl. They didn't learn from their lesson. No, I think the 49ers are the reigning NFC champions. You got to respect that. Geoffrey, yeah, discredited the 49ers consistently throughout all of last year. You refuse to respect that they beat the Saints. They beat good competition in the NFC. Like, you're saying that they barely beat the Cardinals, but Darren brought up a good point. The Cardinals beat the Seahawks. So that discredits that argument. And also, they've beaten good teams, a.k.a. the New Orleans Saints. If you think the Saints are a bad team, then argue with that. But the 49ers have proven they can beat good teams. And I still think we got to respect that they're the NFC champions. Seahawks are a playoff team, but I don't see them being the 49ers for the NFC West round.
Yep, I completely agree. I think the 49ers are at the top of the division. I think the NFC West is the epitome of inconsistency in the fact that, you see the Seahawks beating the 49ers 1 week and then putting up a stinker at home against like the Brett Hundley Cardinals. And then same with the other teams in the division. You don't really know what's going to happen on a given day. The team could play up to their competition, play down to their competition. So I don't see a team from the NFC West representing the NFC in the Super Bowl this year. But for the reasons Kevin stated, I also see the 49ers at the top of the division.
And I would also like to bring up something else. If you look at the past few years, when a team goes to the Super Bowl for like the first time in several years, they usually tend to regress a little bit during the beginning of the season. They aren't nearly as good. So if you look at the Eagles, it took them some time to catch up again. Not sure why, but it's something that happens. Even the Rams, they were good the first game, and then the games against the Bucks, they were inconsistent. They were bad. So I feel like that might also play a part in the 49ers not winning the division.
I mean, I feel like that's basically just an intuition. Like, if you look at the evidence, the 49ers, like, I haven't looked at their schedule, but the 49ers, like, were this close to winning the Super Bowl last year. So I don't think you can just go off some, like, weird intuition and say, oh, the 49ers are not going to be good this year. Like, that just doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah, speaking of their schedule, some of the toughest games the 49ers have are against teams like the Bills, the Packers, the Saints, and within the division mostly. I mean, they play the entire AFC East, which is this year I think is a weaker division because the Patriots obviously left. I mean, Tom Brady left, but the Patriots left pretty much too with him.
I disagree with that, but continue.
Yeah, so I just think the 49ers schedule is well suited to them controlling their own destiny, and I think they will win enough divisional games against their opponents. So yeah, they're at the top of the division.